What is going on, everyone? The Philadelphia Eagles are 1-0. They beat the Redskins at home. Sloppy first, they handled business in the second half and dominated. Well, now it's time to turn the page. We have the Atlanta Falcons up next, and this will be a tough matchup. I believe the Birds will get the W, but this will be tough. The Atlanta Falcons, they are desperate because they don't want to start the season off 0-2. Nobody does. That's putting yourself in such a big hole. They are desperate. They have extra motivation. They have a chip on their shoulder based off the fact that they didn't look so hot in Minnesota. They got embarrassed by the Vikings. Let's be real. What they put on display was awful. And now they're returning home, their home opener, with a lot to prove. The discussion of rust has been used all around the league. Because of the preseason, rust for week 1 is a big topic. Not just week 1, it's almost as if all of September is now the preseason. So the word rust is thrown out there all the time. Did the Falcons look bad because of the rust? How about the Eagles and their first half? Was it bad because of the rust? Well, that's what we're going to find out in week 2. Now, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by SeatGeek. You can use the promo code BROADS on SeatGeek's checkout page when purchasing tickets to save you $20. Go ahead, use the promo code BROADS now. The game is essentially a pick'em. That's where it started. The Eagles are now being favored because of the public bet. But at the end of the day, it's so close, at the time of this recording, of course, that it is essentially a pick'em. You got a 50-50 shot at it. The matchup is almost even. That is a line for me that almost favors the Eagles, based off of what I already described. The Falcons are at home. The Falcons have something to prove. Yet, the Eagles are favored? It's a close line. I'm not telling you it's a 7-point spread, so that tells you, oh, that's totally Eagles. No, it's not to that degree. It's not impossible for the Atlanta Falcons to win this football game. But I'm leaning towards the Eagles. Now, listen, the Falcons have weapons. They do. And the Falcons have Matt Ryan, who is a good quarterback in this league. But it's almost as if they can't put it together. It's almost as if they have great talent on the roster, but it's not clicking. Ever since that Super Bowl collapse, ever since the 28-3, we haven't seen the Falcons be that successful since. The Birds. Now, both of the teams are Birds, so, when I say the Birds, of course I'm talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. But the Birds have had the Falcons' number over the last few games that they've played. Keep in mind, those games have been in Philadelphia. We haven't traveled on the road to Atlanta. And statistically, the Falcons aren't the greatest road team, and they're pretty good at home. Now, that's standard around sports, but just keep that in mind. But it's almost as if this team just can't put it together. If there's one thing that concerns me looking into this football game, it's the fact that our cornerbacks have gotten roasted. Right? I don't feel confident in our cornerback play. Rasul Douglas, Sidney Jones, Ronald Darby's tackling, Avonte Maddox. I don't feel too comfortable with them yet. They haven't shown me anything in week 1. They've showed me the complete opposite, actually. With that being said, I have to factor in Julio Jones, Sanu, Ridley. They have threats. They have players that can toast your cornerbacks all day long. That is where I'm concerned. I also know that we have weapons. In fact, we have the new nickname, DNA, Deshaun Jackson, Nelson Aguilar, and Alshon Jeffrey, DNA. We have weapons too. I mean, this could be a shootout. Both of the teams have strong offenses. So this can be a shootout, a high-scoring game, both teams in the 30s, because both defenses can't keep up. That's a possibility. That's how I guess this game will play out. So both teams have weapons. So, yeah, we might get torched defensively. We might give up some big plays. We might give up some big-time touchdowns, sort of like we did against Washington. But we can counter those with plays of our own, with Carson Wentz rolling to the outside, with Carson Wentz converting on third downs. If I'm the Falcons, I'm watching the Eagles film from week 1, and I see Deshaun Jackson being unreal at the age of 32, showing how fast he really is, showing that his age doesn't mean anything right now. He can still ball. If I'm the Falcons, I'm saying, beat me another way. I won't allow Deshaun to get behind me. Now, I'm not saying that's how the Falcons are going to play it, but if I'm the coaching staff, that's how I look at it. Okay, that's their strongest point. Let's take that away. The Patriots do it all the time. That's what Bill Belichick does. That's what he thrives with. I mean, you can even see the video that's going viral over Twitter over the last couple weeks of was it Chad Ochocinco and Bill Belichick? And Bill was like, dude, I'm double teaming you. I'm double teaming you all game long. Well, yeah, that's what he does. He takes away your best weapon. So if the Falcons do that, I expect the Eagles to thrive with underneath stuff. Well, if they're going to double team Deshaun, there's going to be things that are open underneath. And I'm not saying double team. If their main focus is Deshaun, making sure Deshaun doesn't go and get these long balls, there's going to be other things open. And I expect a lot of underneath stuff to be open. So maybe we see Zach Ertz a little bit more. Maybe we see Nelson Aguilar a little bit more. And I can compare this to the run game. A lot of people are upset with Darren Sproles getting so many touches, and it was odd. And Jordan Howard not getting many touches. You had some third and short opportunities, and we weren't pounding Jordan Howard, the rock right up the middle, like things of that nature. Every game is going to be so different. Deshaun was unreal in week 1. Well, maybe Nelson Aguilar is a stud in week 2. Or maybe Alshon, or maybe Zach Ertz. And same with the running back committee. All right, Darren Sproles got a hefty amount of touches in week 1. Why can't that be Jordan Howard? Why can't that be Miles Sanders? There was an argument to defend Darren Sproles getting so many touches, and it's the fact that, well, you know his body's going to collapse at some point, so why not get the most of them? See, that doesn't make sense to me, because if you know his body's going to collapse at some point, why would you pound them so early in the beginning of the season? You would kind of wait until middle of the season, maybe the back stretch, so he would be useful in big-time situations. So that doesn't make sense to say that, oh, let's try and get the most out of him now because his body's just going to fall apart. Well, no. If that's the case, you hold off on him, and then you use him later in the season. Offensively, as long as Doug calls plays like he did in that second half, because he was rusty in the first half, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. But once he got in the rhythm, and he was calling great plays in that second half, if we get that out of Doug Pederson, and we hit those underneath routes, if Deshaun is taken away, and maybe Deshaun finds a way to slip away for just one play for 1 second. Boom, bada bing, bada boom, bada boom. We get a touchdown. That's a possibility. But I see this game being a shootout. Now, let's talk about the trenches. Even though Malik Jackson's gone, I believe the Eagles should be able to execute in the trenches, win the battles. Our offensive line should definitely be able to handle that, because the Falcons' the Falcons' weakest spot is just their defense as a whole. And that's why you saw the Minnesota Vikings pound the rock, feed the beast, run the ball down their throats. Just tire them out, make them work. Now, I don't know if Doug Pederson's going to do that. He seems to be a little bit more pass happy. But maybe he takes a look at the film and changes things up and goes, all right, this was effective, so why not use what I saw be effective against this team? It's possible. We might see a lot more runs. But I believe this offensive line can do a fantastic job against this defensive line. You know, they don't have a J.J. Watt. They don't have these stud pass rushers, these elite, insane pass rushers. It's not the worst in the league, but it's, you know, it's nowhere up to elite. And let's go to our defensive line. So, yes, Malik Jackson. And, hey, we picked up Akeem Spence, which is a name I mentioned in the video when Malik Jackson went down. We should have enough. The Falcons, a little banged up in the offensive line. We should have enough. We need to get more in terms of getting to the quarterback. Now, Jim Schwartz stated our DBs have to do a better job as well. They need to make sure they cover these receivers a little bit longer to buy time for our defensive front to get to the quarterback, which is a fair thing to say. But at the same time, they need to do a better job as well. I'm very interested to see how we work this rotation now that Malik Jackson is out. You have Fletcher, you have Timmy Jernigan. I'm a big fan of those two. I think they can be successful. Ridgeway coming in the mix. You also have Spence now in the mix, who is a player who has experience in this league and started for the Miami Dolphins last year for 16 games. That's right, 16 games. Now, he was speaking to some of the media members when he just got here, and it's funny when I listen to these media members talk about conversations with new players. They're always amazed with the culture in the locker room. They're always amazed with how it is here and the energy surrounding the locker room and the culture, and that's awesome. And not only that, Spence was pumped that he's playing in a city where the fans actually care. The fans know what's going on. They're passionate about their sports teams. They are diehards. They're disgusted with allowing a touchdown at the end of the game against the Redskins, even though the game was already done and it was a victory. Now, maybe that has to do with people having money on this spread, and that's a completely different story, but he's just stoked to be in a city where people care. It's cool to see professional athletes who have been in other areas come to your city and appreciate the beauty of it. Because there is a beauty in playing in Philadelphia. There was a video from the Washington Redskins game, and Brandon Graham was mic'd up. I thought this was hysterical. He was, he was just BG, you know. BG always has that smile on his face. He's always chirping. He's always being loud. He's always, you know, he brings that swag to him, and he's talking trash to the other team. He's talking trash to the Redskins. And he kept referencing the Popeye spicy chicken sandwich. I thought it was great. I love hearing players mic'd up. How do they act on the field? What's their level of energy? What do they use specifically to get them hyped? Because, you know, coming from someone who played college hockey, there's players who chirp all the time. There's players who stay quiet and just focus on their own game. There's people who do a little bit of a mix. And it comes down to what's your personality, what's your style when you're in game mode. So it's always funny to see how these athletes that you watch every day, how do they act on the field? And PG, he's just hilarious. I thought that video was classic. One thing I want to look for in this game, though, is do we come out slow? All right? Because we have. No denying it. We have, dating back to last year and even the first game this year. Now, I will counter that by saying, and I stated this in my post-game podcast with Shelfie, Dan Robinson. Last year, when we came out slow, we were just slow and looked awful and never really found a groove ever, it seemed. In week 1, when we beat the Redskins, it was bad the first half. But the second half, we actually dominated, and we looked smooth, and we had flow to our offense, and we did what we did in 2017. We had 8-minute drives, 9-minute drives, 10-minute drives, just milking the clock, executing, using the field perfectly, great play calls, running the ball well, executing that offensive line was fantastic, keeping Carson Wentz up. It's just, it was beautiful, and we didn't see that last year. Even though we started slow in this first week, we had a different second half that we didn't see all season long last year. So that's where I look at it with optimism, saying, okay, there's a possibility we can play a full game like that if we put it together. That's something I really want to see. I want to see this team come out hot. Play right off the bat. Bang. First snap of the game. Have a lead. 7-0, 14-0. Get a lead. Hold the lead. It's not going to be a walk in the park, all right? I'm not sitting here saying it's an automatic Eagles W. They're going to roast them. They're going to kill them. Nah, I don't know if it's to that degree. Because once again, there's a chip on their shoulder. There's a sense of urgency with that Atlanta Falcon team. You're home, and you don't want to start the season off 0-2. You got embarrassed by Minnesota. I mean, that's something that can't go unnoticed, right? They're going to have an extra sense of urgency. You think that head coach who is under the gun, who has a lot of heat, who's feeling it, that seat might be a little hot for their head coach over there in Atlanta because of everything that's happened since the Super Bowl, and you can even counter and count in the Super Bowl as well. He's feeling it. So he's got to do everything he can to get the job done. But it's almost as if that team just can't click. For some reason, that team can't figure it out. Where's Matt Ryan in his career? I mean, he's a very good quarterback in this league, but he had a really tough game against Minnesota, throwing a couple interceptions, unacceptable interceptions. He wasn't focused. He didn't have the it factor in that game. Can he bounce back with a game where he is focused? That's my biggest concern, is if he comes out focused and he hits these receivers on these deep routes because our cornerbacks can't figure it out, then we're in trouble. Especially if we can't match that. I don't know if Deshaun is going to be able to replicate what he did in week 1 every single week. Now you're starting to see film, and I know it's only one game, but that's a big-time difference maker when other head coaches get film from this season. So now you have that. I don't think Deshaun's going to be able to duplicate it and replicate what he did last week. Teams are going to see it, they're going to recognize it, they're going to try and take it away. But that's the beauty of all the weapons that we have. Zach Ertz was barely utilized last game. At one point, deep into the ball game, he had 1 reception for 5 yards. You don't think Carson is going to end up finding a way to get Zach Ertz a little bit more implemented into the game? How about Dallas Goedert? But one thing I want to see, and I want to see bad, is Miles Sanders get cooking. Because he had a good game. Now, you look at his stats, and because of some penalties that costed him a touchdown and some yards, it didn't look like he had this good game at all. But Miles Sanders was special. He really does have some quick feet. He's shifty. And not only that, he does the little things. For example, I mean, I saw a blitz pickup that was excellent. Now, he has some things to learn in terms of picking up blitzes. Absolutely. He wasn't A+ all night long in that category. But I saw some things that I loved, and there was one in particular where he picked up the blitz. It bought him time. It bought Carson Wentz time to make a play, and that's so great. That's so unreal. You never see that. Well, let's not go to the extreme of you never see that, but in terms of getting a rookie running back that wants to do it, who's willing to do it. You watch Darren Sproles do it all the time. Maybe that's an extra motivator. Maybe Darren Sproles is teaching Miles Sanders, yo, this is how you do it, because Darren Sproles is fantastic at it, and he's such a little dude. I love that. That kind of stuff fires me up. You know, the common fan watches football, and they watch the quarterback, they watch where they throw it to, and if it doesn't get caught, it's automatically a bad throw. Or if the quarterback gets sacked, it's automatically, well, Carson Wentz didn't get the ball out fast enough. Now, that's not saying every fan does that, right? But the common football fan who just watches the game and watches the football, that's what they see. But the little things that the diehard fans realize is what makes it so beautiful. The blitz pickup, right? I mean, come on, the blocking by the offensive line. Appreciating Brandon Brooks. I still can't get over that. This dude tore his Achilles, and 8 months later, he's starting in NFL Week 1 and being great. Stop. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So I'm juiced. I'm pumped. And I'm praying that Rasul Douglas, Sidney Jones, Avonte Maddox, Ronald Darby, I'm hoping that they can figure it the hell out. Ronald Darby needs to find a way to tackle. He has to. Rasul Douglas has to find a way to not get torched. Sidney Jones, same thing. Someone tried telling me Sidney Jones had a good game. If it wasn't for Case Keenum missing a wide open receiver by 10 yards, he would have got just as torched as Rasul Douglas in the first half for a touchdown. I'm concerned in that area. It's ugly. Ugly is almost an understatement on what it is. I'm hoping that it's just some first week rust, that they will adjust to game speed. Because now it's not practice. Now it's not a joint practice with the Ravens. This is full speed receivers. Now, the Redskins don't have insane weapons. And that's what raises the concern for Julio Jones, for Calvin Ridley, for Sanu. Am I afraid of their run game? Not really. We should be able to handle that. I want to see what we do on third downs, though. Brandon Graham moving in, maybe Vinny Curry. Like, what's the rotation going to look like in terms of that defensive line and some third down stuff? But I'm not afraid of that run game. I think we should be able to handle business. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm super excited, though. I love it. We're at a weird time in the week, though. See, now I gotta readjust my schedule and my body clock because of the football season being back. Monday, super pumped after the game, we react. Tuesday, you're still super pumped and you're reacting, but you have a couple nights sleep on it now, so things change. You dive a little bit deeper into things. Wednesday's a very odd time because you're in the middle of, okay, we're kind of over what happened last week, but we're too far away to discuss what's going to happen the following week. Thursday, you're itching towards it. It's not Football Friday yet, but you're definitely more in the next week category. It's weird. It's weird to get back on schedule and find the rhythm, because there's flow involved in this, and there's flow in the football season in terms of reacting as a fan and analyzing it as a fan. But I'm excited to go down to Atlanta and get the job done. Being on the road doesn't scare me too much. Listen, these guys are professionals, right? They're veterans, too. I mean, we have an older team, an experienced team. They're veterans. If you're going to tell me that the reason they lose a game is because they're on the road, I don't know. It's not like we're going into Green Bay or something of that nature. We're going to Atlanta. And sure, they have a passionate fan base and they're loud and whatever. But we're talking about athletes who have been in this circumstance before. We're talking about a team that played in the Super Bowl and beat out Tom Brady and the Patriots. Is a week 2 game in Atlanta scary compared to that? No. Can it play a factor? Yes. But I don't think that's making or breaking us winning this game or not. This team is going to have plenty of reps in terms of the silent count, in terms of being on the same page when it comes to Carson Wentz, Jason Kelce, this offensive line, and these offensive weapons. They're going to have that silent countdown. And listen, if Carson Wentz is able to do what he did last week, oh boy, are we in for a treat. That second half, of course. But escaping the pocket, third and long, boom, right in the breadbasket, putting shots right in the middle of the breadbasket for these receivers. It's so important, and he looked so comfortable. He really did. He looked confident out there. He didn't look scared. He didn't look overwhelmed. Oh, I love watching Carson Wentz play. It was almost as if, honestly, when he was doing it, there he is. And we don't realize how talented that really was, like how much talent that was. We were just so used to seeing it in 2017, upset we didn't see it in 2018. We saw it in the back half of week 1. It was, there it is. And it's so nonchalant how dominant he looked for his 313 yards and 3 touchdowns, which kind of got screwed on another touchdown because they ruled that Alshon Jeffrey a rushing touchdown due to the fact that he threw the football behind him, which is a discussion for another day. So let's look at what is in the division in terms of week 2. The Cowboys play the Redskins in Washington. I would expect the Cowboys to take care of business. Well, I don't think the away factor is going to be a big problem for them. They looked good in week 1. No denying it. I think they are a good football team. A really good football team. I'm going to be honest with you. I think the Dallas Cowboys are a really good football team. They got a great defense, and their offense looked great against the Giants. Keep in mind, just the Giants, I know, but when we looked good against the Redskins, it was just the Redskins. So I think the Cowboys are going to be able to handle business there. And the Bills go into New York to play the Giants. Once again, looking in the NFC East. And the Bills are favorites. What? How are they favorites? How? That's so bad. That's so bad for the New York Giants fans. How? I know the Giants stink. The Bills stink. The Bills are atrocious. I don't know how they beat the Jets. That might just show you how bad the Jets are. I can't believe the Giants are actually underdogs. In New York. Now, that doesn't mean the Giants are going to lose. But what that does mean is, oh my Lord, they are bad, bad, real bad. Can they even win 5 games bad? Are we looking more towards 4 games bad? Maybe 3 games bad? Are they that bad because they're underdogs to the Bills? No, maybe this is an overreaction by the Vegas, the line setters, because of the fact that the Bills won week 1 and the Giants lost in the fashion that they did in week 1 as well. Maybe. I can't believe it. When I saw that, I couldn't believe it. Some other big games on the market for week 2. Minnesota goes to Green Bay. Green Bay had that good game in Soldier Field on Thursday Night Football. They shut down that Bears offense. Is the defense really legit, or is Chicago that bad offensively with Mitch Trubisky? We'll have to see, but I thought that was a really good matchup. I also think Seattle going into Pittsburgh is very interesting because Seattle didn't have that great of a game against Cincinnati, but they squeaked one out. And we know what happened with Pittsburgh. They got embarrassed 33-3 to the Patriots and Tom Brady there without Antonio Brown. So those are interesting. And then Saints-Rams, which is the NFC Championship rematch. Now this time it's in LA and not in New Orleans. If it was in New Orleans, we'll have all the flashbacks of the play that wasn't called, and I'm sure we're still going to get that anyway, but that's a big matchup, and those are like the biggest outside of looking into the division. You know, those are like the biggest on the menu. And then the Monday night game was crazy to me because these teams, I don't know, Browns versus Jets. Of course, the Browns are exciting because of who they acquired, but they didn't look exciting at all when they got their asses handed to them by the Tennessee Titans. So that's just looking around the league a little bit. The weeks are going by slow. But you know what? As much as I say that, before you know it, it'll be week 13. It'll be week 14. And I'll look back and say, where the hell did this season go? Because it's almost as if I was waiting all summer for football. It finally came, and I was watching week 1. I said, wow. Football's back, baby. Football's already back. You know, so it goes by so slow. It finally gets here, and then you look at it from a distance, and you say, whew. Snuck up on us. Final predictions here. My final say here on Eagles versus Falcons on this mini pod, if you will. Eagles get the job done. They win by a field goal. I'll say they win by a field goal. They look good. You might see some holes in that defense still. I believe you'll see some chunk plays out of Julio and those weapons and Matt Ryan. But at the end of the day, we find a way to go into Atlanta and win. I'm going my Birds. It'll be close. It'll be a battle. It's not going to be a walk in the park. The Falcons will give us trouble. But due to Doug Pederson late, due to clock management, due to our running game, we're going to find a way to win the football game by 3 points. No matter how that is. I don't care how it is. I just care that it happens. I don't care that the Falcons are pissed off and disgusted with their efforts in Minnesota. Maybe that's just because they're a bad team. Maybe it's because they're not as strong as they thought they were. Maybe because they've been through so much struggle over the last few seasons, they can't get out of the funk. This is just who they are. They're not a fantastic football team. Maybe that's it. Instead of the rust factor, why can't that be it? Well, we will see. We will see. So, Once again, this podcast is sponsored by SeatGeek. Use the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page when purchasing your tickets for $20 off. And hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're on YouTube listening to this. If you're listening to it on any podcast app, if you can please rate this 5 stars and write a review, that would be lovely. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.